Hi all, welcome to the video. In this video, we are going to talk about persistent disk in Google Cloud. So basically, it is a durable high performance network attached block storage that we attach to the VM. So when you create a VM and you attach a disk, that is persistent disk and it is attached over the network. And when we read or write any data from a persistent disk volume, so data is also transmitted over the network. It is not directly connected, it is connected over network. And if you want anything to be directly connected, if you need a very fast read-write operation, you can choose local SSD. We will talk about that in later videos. And the data on the each persistent disk volume is distributed across several physical disks. So suppose you have created a single disk and you have some data on that disk, but at the background that data is like distributed across several physical disks, and that is taken care by of compute engine. You don't need to do anything. Google will do that. That Google will manage the physical disk and the data distribution for you to ensure redundancy and optimal performance. Even your disk goes down at the Google data center, it doesn't mean your data is lost. It will at least keep some copies of the data in the same location in the same data center, or you can say zone. So even we can detach or move the volumes to keep your data even after we delete our instance. So if you delete your VM, you have the option whether you want to keep the disk or delete the disk. So if you want to keep the data, you can choose the option to keep that disk when you delete the VM. And persistent disk performance increases with size. So as you increase the size of the disk, its performance also increased. So like you can resize your existing persistent disk volume, and even we can add more persistent volumes to a VM to meet your performance and storage space requirements. Even your suppose you have a 500 GB of disk, its data is full, so you can increase the size of the disk also. And there are multiple type of persistent disk. So first of all is PD standard. So it is a very cheap SSD backed one. SSD is like hard drive one, which we have basically in our computers also and laptops also, and it is a cheap one, so it will be the most cheapest. After that we have PD balance. It is also good balance cost performance. Then we have PD SSD. It is using SSD, so it is all means it is fast also, and it is for very high performance workloads if you are using. And then we have PD extreme, and this is for very high IOPS, like we are using in a database and there are multiple like thousands of read write happening in an every second, so you can use PD extreme. So then we have the type of like how you want to use like zonal or regional. So if you use zonal, it will be created in a single zone, and it is for normal workloads. If you have a simple website running or application running, it is okay. But you can also use regional. So it will the replication will happen in two zones. So you can select in the another zone in which you want to do the replication, and it is for HA, high availability. So if somehow zone 1 goes down, you can use the same disk in zone 2 also. That is another zone. And now let's see what are the durability of persistent disk. So durability in persistent disk means what are the chances that your data is permanently lost in a year. Suppose something happens at the Google like region or zone, and what are the chances data will never recover. So if we say Google says we have 99.999% durability, it means your losing data is extremely tiny. Maybe something big happens and then only your data can be lost. And your disk is not just one physical hard drive sitting somewhere. So as I've told you in the first slide also, your data is split, encoded and stored across multiple disks inside Google storage system. So even if one disk how may be corrupted, as we know disk can be corrupted anytime. So even that disk has been corrupted, you can like Google has stored your data into multiple physical disks, so it can be restored from that another disk. And zonal disk keep its replicas inside single zone in the one zone, and it protects you from the normal hardware failures in the data center. So if something happens in the specific data center in that specific zone, then it is a possibility that with the help of its replicas, we can like recover your data. And a regional disk keeps two full copies of in two different zones in the same region. So in the same region, like at least we have a three zones, so it will two full copies in two different zones. So in this there is a one issue in the zonal one. If the zone goes down, your data cannot be restored until the zone came up. But in the regional thing, if zone goes down, we can recover our data or use the data from another zone also. And durability doesn't mean if you delete the disk from yourself and then ask Google to return recover my data, that is not possible. When it is deleted, or if it has been deleted accidentally or you have formatted, that's on you. So that's your responsibility. Don't think that Google has multiple copies and you delete your disk and Google will return your data. That is not possible. So Google will protect against only the hardware failures that will happen at their end, not any human mistakes. So any mistake done by you or your team, that is purely responsibility of yours, not the Google. Let's see what is the zonal persistent disk. So basically, zonal persistent disk is a persistent disk that is accessible only within a one specific zone. So if I using this, for example, Europe West 2. So in this, I can use a specific zone like 2A, 2B, 2C. In that zone only, I can access the disk. It protects against hardware failures in the zone, but not against the entire zone failure. As I've told you, if entire zone goes down, nothing can be recovered until it came up, or maybe possibility that your disk is always like there's a possibility also that you have lost your data also, but that is very tiny as we have seen in the previous slides. And Google will handle the replication and redundancy for you, and we don't need RAID for that. We don't have to take like worry about that. And persistent disk performance increases as the total size increases. So if you increase the size, the performance will be increased and it will give you more IOPS and higher throughput. If your VM has very few vCPUs, so you can hit a performance cap even if your disk is large. So sometimes improving disk performance means adding more vCPU too. So it doesn't mean like if you have two vCPUs and you are using 2 TB of disk, so what will happen? You can hit a performance cap because once you increase the disk size, you need more CPUs also so that your machine can performs according to that. So it doesn't mean just you will increase the disk size and you will think that it will support or it will give you more IOPS and throughput. That is not work possible. You have to sometime increase the or add the more vCPUs too. Now let's see what how persistent regional disk is. So in the diagram we can see we have a VM in which we have one disk and we have a remote replica. So you have to choose where you want to create a VM and where you want to create a replica. So as we can see, a regional persistent disk is different. It keeps two copies of data in two different zones inside the same region. So in the US West A1 and here US West AB. And this application is like synchronous. That means when your VM writes data, so if your VM writes data in this one, it will be completed. The write will be completed after both zone have the received the data. So like the write is completed only after both zones have received the data. So until both zone have the same data, the write will not be completed. And so both copies are always consistent. And regional disk also protect from zonal failure, not region-wide failure. If region goes down, then you cannot do anything because inside a region or zone also goes down. And if an entire region fails, which is extremely rare, and then your all the zones will be impacted. Now let's see some limitation in regional persistent disk. So in regional PD work with only certain machine types like you can use E2, N1, N2 and N2D, and maximum size for regional standard disk if you are using standard disk is 200 GB, and we can only increase the disk size. You cannot never decrease. So you have to plan capacity carefully. Don't do this like you have a disk running of 500 GB and it is full. You have just make it 1 TB. That doesn't make sense. Go with like 600 GB, 700 GB like that because you cannot decrease the size. Even if you have space empty or you're not using it, that there is no option for that. And if you are using a read-only mode, you can attach a regional balance disk up to 10 VMs and Google handles replication and redundancy for you. So you don't need RAID that we have already seen in the previous slides. And we also see this like persistent disk performance increases as the total size increases. Bigger disk means more IOPS and higher throughput. And if your VM has very weak CPU, then also we can hit a performance cap even if your disk is very large. So this is point we already seen. And there are some restrictions. So we cannot attach a disk to a VM in another project. So each project have their own disk. You cannot say like I want to use this disk in another project. That is not possible. And as of now, most VMs support up to 128 disks. So you can attach up to 128 disks and up to 257 TB total storage. And like shared core machines are more limited. You can only attach 16 disks and 3 TB total and each disk can go up to 64 TB. So these are some restrictions if you are using very at a very high level. So keep in mind. And like as you already see, minimum size for regional standard disk is 200 GB. So just make sure these are the like speedy standards STD one. So for this we have 200 GB disk size at least we have to use if we are going with a regional one. And for other when you create a disk, it will show how much minimum and maximum size you can use. And with this PD Extreme, even this is very advanced one. For it is very for like high IOPS, in which we can even decide how much IOPS we want. Other than that, now after PD, Google has came with hyperdisk also. I will cover that in later parts. Now let's go to console and do some demo, and let's see what are the options, how to create disk. And this is the part one. We will cover more things in later parts. Let's go on the console. So I'm in my console now. I'm on the disk part. Let me create a new disk, and let's see what are the options we have. First of all, I'm going to create a zonal disk. So let's provide a name zonal, and then we have to choose a specific region in which we want to create the disk. So I'm going with US central one. You can choose any region, like region, and then we have to select a zone also. So I'm going to use US central 1A. You can choose any zone in which you want to create your VM and your disk. After that, we have to provide the source. So I am going to create a blank disk, but you can create a disk from your image. If you have an image already there, you can create a disk from the snapshot. Also, you can create from if you have taken an instance snapshot, archive snapshot. From there, you can also create a disk. The snapshot I will cover later on. Just these are the options from which we can create a disk. After that, we have the options like what kind of disk we want to create. So these are hyper disks. These are the new disks and they provide more options. But I'm going to cover this on later videos. First of all, I'm going to cover these persistent disks. So we have four options: balance, extreme, SSD, and standard. So standard is most cheap one. It is HDD. Then we have balance one. We can choose extreme also and SSD also. There's one thing: if you choose extreme, you have the option to choose the IOPS also. How much IOPS you want? You can choose between 2,500 to 1,25,000. So if you want more IOPS, you can choose more IOPS, because if you want more, if your database like heavy application or something like that, then you can choose IOPS from this. And I'm going with like for this, let's go with standard persistent disk. Even you can click on this compare disk type. So here you can choose which is your VM series. Provide the CPU count also. Suppose I want 4 CPU. You can define the disks also. So we can see standard is for cost sensitive, throughput optimized, non-boot data drives. So for this non-boot, you can go with this standard also. And for the balance is for general purpose enterprise application, SSD for performance sensitive business critical applications, and extreme is for high-end database workloads like we are using SAP HANA. And we can see the difference also. So in this IOPS, for instance, it can kept on changing in every disk type. And if you increase the disk type also, it is possible that this thing will also change. The more the CPU, the better will the performance in some disk. So let's go with 16. You can see this has been changed. And if you increase the CPU more, something will change like this. There's options. Even you can increase the disk size also, then this thing will also change. So if I go with 5,000, you can see it has been changed. So if you need more IOPS, more throughput, you can increase the disk size. Now let's close this and let's create a standard persistent disk, and we are okay with 100 GB. And after that, we have the option storage pool. It is only supported hyperdisk. I will cover that later. Data protection, if you want to enable snapshot schedule, you can choose that also. If you don't know, need, just remove this. Consistency group is not in standard persistent disk, doesn't support this. It is also a separate topic. I will create another video. And then we have advanced configuration. So if you want to increase use encryption of Google Manage or Cloud KMS, you can use. You can even supply your own keys. You can add labels. You can add tags. That's all. You can just click on create a disk. It will create a disk. This is our zonal disk. Now let's create one more disk. Meanwhile, that is creating. I am going to use this time regional disk. I will come here. I will choose regional, and you can choose your primary zone and a kind of replica zone. So it will synchronously replicate data across two zones, and RPO is 0. And it will also provide a failover replica in the same region to protect against zonal outage. So primary, I okay with this one, and secondary, I want to use US Central 1C. Again, same thing. You can choose like source blank disk, and here if I go with standard persistent disk, there's also there you can see in this we have limited options. We don't get there's all the options. We have hyperdisk, but there's only one hyperdisk. We don't need like find extreme persistent disk because that is not available in regional thing. And if I choose standard, so minimum size will be 200 GB for standard, And for SSD, we can start with 10 GB, and for balance also we can start with 10 GB. So now let's go with SSD, and I will go with 100 GB, and let's click on create. So we can see we have a zonal disk and regional disk. Zonal is in only one zone and regional is in both the zones. US Central 1A and Central 1C, which we have choose. Now let's create a VM, and I will click on create an instance, and let's call it my first VM. And here I am going to choose my US Central 1A, and let's go to OS in storage, and I will click on change. And here also you can choose a disk. So here I am using balanced persistent disk, and you can define a size also. So let's say I want 100 GB of disk. In the advanced configuration, you can even give a default name also, like sorry, a custom name also. So you can say like it is my boot disk, like this you can provide. And here you can add additional disk also. So if I click on add new disk, same options I will get here also. You can provide a blank, all that. But here you cannot create a regional disk. Here you can only create a like zonal disk only. So if you want to create a regional disk, first go to disk, create a regional disk, then come here and attach the disk. So we have a existing disk already there. I will click on this, and I will choose the disk. I am going with zonal disk first, and we have the mode like read write read only. As of now we are okay with read write. I will cover later on the difference between these and how to do that. Then we have the deletion rule also, whether you want to keep the disk when your VM will be deleted or you want to delete the disk. I'm okay with keeping the disk, and I can give a custom name also here also if you want to. I will show this later on what will happen if we change the zonal like this name later on. I will click on save, and then I will click at attach existing disk once again. I will choose my regional disk, and I am going to click on save, and just I am going to create a VM. So my VM has been created. Let me log into this VM once. So I'm in my VM. So I'm not a Linux administrator. I do not know much Linux, but I'm just showing what will happen in this. So if I do lsblk, I can see there is one my this is my SDB. It is my boot disk. You can see, and this is my one more disk, and this is my another disk. So from there I cannot I'm not able to know which is my zonal disk and which is my regional disk. So what I can do, let me try this command ls -l -dev disk by id. Maybe it will show that. So from here I can see something SDA. I can from the SDA it is 100 GB, and if I found SDA where it is you can see it is a zonal disk, Google zonal disk, and SDC it is, and we can see SDC is persistent regional disk. Like this you can also check if you don't know the disk name, like it's the same, the size is same only. You can come like here, like run this command, and you can check by the ID also. It will show the name of the disk which you have used, and you can see it is regional disk and this is zonal disk. So what I'm going to do, first of all, let me format the disk so that I can attach to my VM. So for that I can run sudo like I think mkfs ext4, and I will provide my like partition name or the disk name SDA, and after that I will provide SDC also. So that is done. Now I will create one directory, sudo make directory, and I will mount to first of all is zonal disk, and I will create one more directory, and it is for my regional disk. Okay, now I will attach uh, this mount point with my disk. So for that I can use sudo mount. Let me see once again the name of this SDA. Okay, and SDA is my regional zonal disk. Okay, so I can use dev in SDA mount zonal disk. That is done. Let's do same for my regional disk also. Dev SDC, I think, mount regional disk. Okay, let me fix the command. Okay, that is done. If I do now lsblk, and I can see it has been mounted. Now what will happen if I reboot the VM? This thing will be deleted. This mount point will not be there again because it is only temporary thing. To make it permanent, I am going to update an entry in my fs tab thing. So before that I will find out my ID block ID, sorry, sudo. So these are the ID of my disk SDA1 and SDC. So let me copy this one first, and I will going to use sudo nano and slash SDC and fs tab, and here I will come, and at the last I will create one more entry UID, and you can provide your that name, then you can provide your mount point, that is zonal disk, then you can provide that extension type, I think ex t4, then I will provide defaults and 0 and 2. Okay, I think that is good. I will do this for this also. SDC. Maybe there will be more things that you can do. I don't know much about Linux. So if you know how to do this better, you can do that also. I'm just showing this so I can do my demo. But there is no right and wrong here. Just these are the steps which I found from the internet, and I can save on the chat GPT how to do this. And after that, I'm to run sudo mount -a so that it will me show some error if it is. A mount point doesn't exist. Let me, I think something I've done wrong. Oh, the spelling is wrong. Let me try now once again. Sudo mount -a will tell you if there's some issue with your file. So now you can see there's no issue with the file also. And if I do lsblk, it is mounted also. Now I will go to my regional mount point, and I will create some files here. Let me create a make directory regional data, something like that. And if I go to here, and I will create one more file like sudo touch my new data.txt. Now suppose what I'm going to do, suppose something happens and your VM goes down, your zone goes down basically, and now you want this data in another zone. You want to recover this data, so you can come here, click on create instance, and let me call it my recover VM, something like that, and I will choose US Central 1C. So I have a replica, as you remember here only US Central 1C. I can choose the zone here. I can come here and I can click on add existing disk, and I want my regional disk back here. Then it will say this selected disk is already attached to another instance. To use this disk, you must use force attach. This may cause original instance using this disk to stop. I'm okay with that. I will click on save, and I will click the to creating the VM. In some time, what will happen? If I do lsblk here, my regional disk will be removed from this VM. If let's wait for a minute or two. Before that also it can be removed. You can see now there is no regional disk here because this disk has been deattached and attached to my another VM. And now let's the VM has been, once a VM has been created, I will log into that VM also. So let me log in into this VM. But don't do this on the production VM, because if what will happen, I am showing because it's a demo thing, but make sure what you are doing. Suppose you have a database that is writing to this specific disk, and somehow you remove that disk from the VM. What will happen? It will Your database can be corrupted. Anything can be happen. So make sure what you are doing. For demo purpose, everything is good. I'm just showing, but make sure what you are doing. You know Linux how to like do this all these things. So as of now, you can see I am able to see my 100 GB of disk here. So you to use this, first of all, I have to let me create a mount point first. So sudo make directory mount, I want say recover data. And one more thing, don't uh, format this disk. If you try to format, your all data has been gone. So make sure what you are doing. And now let me mount this sudo mount dev sda to my mount recover data. And if I go to my, like, I'm not using fs tab in this part because this is a just I'm just showing you, but please I think if, like include a Linux person who know how to do these things. And if I do ls, I can see the data is here. And if I go to cd regional data, I can see the file is here. Let me create new file, sudo touch recover uh, data.txt, something like that. Now what I'm going to do, now let's go back to our console, and now suppose this VM has been came up, my first VM. So what we can do, we can go back here again and click on edit, and we can attach our disk back also. So I can come here and click on attach existing disk. I can choose my original disk again. Once again, I will force attach, click on save, and my disk is will be back on my VM soon. So if I do, this is my first VM lsblk. You can see my disk is back as GD and 8 GB is back. And it is not showing the mount point as of now, but as we know, we have a fs tab entry. If I try to do sudo mount a, let's see whether it will fetch that or not. Hyphen a, and mount as modified versus tab. Old version. I like. Okay, so we can see it is showing this now. My original disk. You can run this command also to reload. I don't know much about this, but okay. Now let's go to my original disk once again. And if I do ls and go to original data, I will see I have two files. And let me clear the screen first. And I will do ls. I can see this is my recover data which I have created in the another VM, and this is my old data. So both has been there. Like this, you can use regional disk. For the zonal disk, we don't have this option. You cannot attach to another zone. Let's do some speed check also. How the speed is different here. Let me. There's a command to. So if I come back to my first VM, I can see I have three disks. One is balanced persistent disk, one is standard persistent disk, one is regional SSD persistent disk. So SSD is the most fast, balance is after that, and zone standard is very like the HSD. So it is most slow one, cheap one and slow one. So I'm going to run some commands. So for this, I can do first of all, let me run this command. Let's see if it work or not. So I'm running this command. It will check the speed of my disk. Let me try to run this, and it will give output in a minute, in some seconds. Let's wait for that. And it is going to use my boot disk. As of now, I'm creating a file as a temporary into my temporary directory. You can see it has taken about 6 seconds, and the speed is 175 MB per second. And now I will do the same for my another disk. Okay. In this, I will provide the mount point of my I think zonal disk. Let me provide that zonal disk, and hyphen I will provide the test file, same thing. And I will go here and just do sudo. Let me run this. Let's see how much time it will take, because it is a standard persistent disk. It is the most slow and cheap one. Let's see. So we can see it has taken 8 seconds, about near to 9 seconds, and it has given a speed of 120 MB per second. Now do this with my regional disk also. Same thing, I come here also, and let me run this. Let's see how much it will take. So we can see it has taken 10 seconds. Even this is the balanced persistent disk. Oh, this is the regional SSD persistent disk. It is the most fast disk, as if we compare with that or another disk. In these three, this is the fast one, SSD persistent disk. But there is one thing, it has taken the time because it is a regional disk. So it has to create the data in two zones. In one, like as you know, regional disk will be synchronously copy the data at two zones. That's why it has taken some extra time, and because of that, there's a little bit latency also. But if it is a like alone disk, then it will be very fast. If it is a zonal disk, I mean to say. But as of now, we can compare. See, this is the fastest one because it is zonal. Then this, then this. This is taking time because of regional disk because it is creating two copies. That's why it is taking a little bit more time. Now that's what we can do this also. And one more thing, let's do one thing. I can increase the disk size also. Suppose someone can come to me and say that please my zonal disk has been full. Please increase the size. You can just come here, click on edit button, and you can increase the size. So you can say I want 110 GB. Just click on that and click on save. So make sure what you're doing when you increase the disk size, because once the disk size has been increased, you cannot go back. It will always be same only. So we can see successfully updated. Now, if you want to move back to 100, that is not possible. You can even see it is saying between 110 to 65,000. If I try to 100, it will say disk size cannot be smaller than 110 GB. So don't like increase the size like which doesn't make sense also. So if I do here now, if I do lsblk, I can see it is showing 110 GB, but I cannot, it is showing, but if I do df-h, here I can see it is still showing, this is my SDA, this is my SDA, this is showing 100 GB only, 98 GB only, it is not showing full size. To make sure it shows 110 GB, I have to run a command for that. So for that, I have to run sudo resize, I think 2fs, and we have to provide the dev SDA. And we can see it as done. Now if I run the same command, let me clear it, and df-h, we can see it is showing now 108 GB. Something has been used and I can avail 102 GB, something like this. It is showing this much of size now. Like this, you have to run this command. And one more thing I want to show you before I will cover, like stop this video. I have a script. So first of all, let me make it script.sh. It is a simple script. Let me change the mode of this script also. And so I have a script in which what will happen? It will kept on writing something in this my disk at this mount point, mount zone, zonal disk, and it will just create a counter.txt, and this will just kept on writing that this like data. Let me run this and show you what it will write. Sudo script.sh. So it will kept on writing like this number. Okay, written successfully, written successfully. Now what will happen? Someone from your team or client asks that the disk which you have created, that is this this is my disk, I think zonal disk, it is, this name is not good, we need some other name. And you thought, okay, I can change the name. You can come on here, click on edit, and you come down and thought of changing the name. You can click on here. So you told, you say I will use a custom name, like he want the customer want a custom name. You provide like this your organization name, let's say what is the organization name. You can give any, so you can say my org, anything you can provide, my org journal disk. You click on save, you click on save. You thought nothing will happen, but what will happen, it will break it. Your disk will be deattached. You can see disk will be deattached, input after error. So if your database is using this disk, it will fail, it will crash. So don't do this. And if your disk is running, because it can corrupt your disk, it can corrupt your application, anything can be possible. So make sure if you're trying to update the custom name after the VM has been created, make sure no writes has been doing on that disk. And even if I do lsblk now, we can see my mount point has been removed. You can see there's no mount point. So I have to run sudo mount -e. Let's see. And if I do lsblk once again, now my mount point has been came back. Until that mount point has been removed, and your disk cannot, your data will be not, cannot be written into the disk. This is a very important thing you have to make sure. Don't do things blindly. It can break your application, it can break your database, it can corrupt your database even. So this is the first part here. I have covered, I think, most of the things which I find out I can do. I can show you one more thing. Let's do one Windows VM also. So let me delete this. And let me create a Windows VM. Let's click on let calls Windows VM and choose any zone and go to OS. Change this, change image. I want to go with Windows Server, something like that. 50 GB is fine for me. No, let me do 100 GB at least. It will be fast. Add a new disk. I want a new disk, additional disk, something like that. You can provide. You can provide a 100 GB of disk. That is good. Click on save. Let me create a VM. It will create a VM. So my Windows VM has been created. So login into it. First of all, I have to set a Windows password also. This is my username. Let me copy somewhere and I will click on set. It will create a password for me. So I will do the RDP on this public IP. So I'm logging into my VM. This is the VM which I've created just now. And this is a Windows VM. And let's me go to this PC and I can see I have only one disk which I have. My additional disk is not there. So I can run like window R and I think disk management dot MSC. I think it will run. I will run it. Let's see. Okay, it is open the disk management and here I can see it is already showing me to initialize, but I will, what can I do? I can come here and I click initialize disk and I will go with GPT and I will click on OK. One that is done, you can click on this new simple volume and click on next. You can like define the space you want to use. You can give a name also like what the your like drive name and just click on next and it will format the disk. Okay, and just finish. It will be finished. Now it is showing the disk here. If I come back here, the disk is here. Like this you can use a disk, and in this if you use a custom name it will not do anything. I've tried that, but I don't know, maybe in production it can do some problem, but in the Windows it will not do anything. Like Windows is quite smart also, and you can use this disk to attach to different VMs also. It will automatically attach and show all the data. You don't do no like don't need to do anything else. So this is in how you can do in Windows VM. These are the options we have in Windows VM. And yeah, that's all for this video. I think I have covered most of the things that is required to understand how this disk works, what are the options we have and all that. And one more thing, like if I come back here in the disk thing and I have choose to not delete my disk. I choose to keep my disk. So you can see all the disk are here. This works in the upcoming videos on the disk part. As of now, I am just deleting this because I don't need all these things. Yeah, that's all for this video. If you have any questions, suggestions, just comment it down. I will try to help you if I know how to. I will drop my email ID also. You can drop me an email also if you need any help. I can try to help you. Thank you very much. Bye.